to that kind of buildup. And I spent 21 years in the same place. Those people got used to me. They didn't think I was anything special anymore. So I'm very happy to be back here, and thank you all for being here. I want to begin with a simple statement, and that is, life is full of rules. Have you ever noticed that? Life is full of rules. So probably the first rules you knew were the rules that your family created. And some of those rules made sense, and some of them didn't. I'm sure you've heard the story of Grandma's ham. Yeah, right? The daughter said to the mom, "Why do we cut the bones off the ends of the ham?" And Mom said, "I don't know. My mother always did it." So the daughter called Grandma. Grandma had the same answer. "I don't know. My mother always did it." So great-grandmother was still alive. So the daughter calls her. And great-grandmother says, "Oh, that's because I didn't have a pot big enough for the ham." But the family had made up stories about why they cut the bones off the end of the ham. They had said, that's because it allows it to have more exposure to the inner marrow of the bones, and it adds to the flavor. And yeah, so that's a rule in a family. It also is a clue as to what we do in our lives. We create stories, right? We also have rules. I spent 20 years as a city planner. I ran all kinds of public meetings. And unfortunately, I became an expert at Robert's Rules of Order. Let me tell you how hard it is for me to go to a meeting where Robert's Rules of Order is not followed. I need this talk. You second. We have a motion and a second. Does everybody agree? Yes. Thank you. So then we have larger rules where we have bodies of authority that create rules for us to live by. Those are called laws. We all live under civil laws. And for most of the years that I was at Unity East Side, I like to talk about traffic laws and traffic, because many of my spiritual lessons came from driving. So we're used to rules, right? We get that whole idea that rules have a purpose. So today we're going to talk about what I hope is a very familiar rule. It's called the Golden Rule. Okay? And the Golden Rule comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 12. And it says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." So just breathe that in for a moment. Treat people the way you would like to be treated. And just reflect on how that has worked in your own life. And then if you're like me, you think about driving. And what happens to the Golden Rule when I drive? Yeah. We'll get to that in just a moment. I want to share with you the origin, the history, the pedigree, if you will, of the Golden Rule. The first place this idea that's encapsulated in the Golden Rule was seen was somewhere between 10,000 and 4,000 BCE, before the Common Era, in Hinduism. One should not behave toward others in a way which is disagreeable to oneself. And it continues to appear all throughout human history. Zoroastrianism, 2000 to 1000 BCE, also has, do not do unto others what is injurious to yourself. That has a different flavor. I like that one. Sikhism, I am a stranger to no one, and no one is a stranger to me. Indeed, I am a friend to all. And it just keeps going through Jainism and Buddhism and Confucianism and Taoism and Judaism to Christianity, which I've already read you, to Islam, to Unitarianism, to the Baha'i faith, and of course, in unity. Since we are metaphysical Christianity, we absolutely believe it is a common ethical guideline found in all of these religions for thousands of years. It's a fundamental concept in unity because it promotes compassion and respect in human relationships. According to experts, this ethic of human behavior begins with knowing how we want others to treat us. Universally, we want others to treat us with kindness, respect, and empathy, recognizing our inherent value and our individual uniqueness. We all want that. And yet, what's also universal is that we have a very hard time following the golden rule. And the reason we have a hard time following that golden rule is because we are all running a program not based on the golden rule, right? And that programming, now all of us are familiar with computers. We know what goes into the computer, garbage in, garbage out, right? Our programming begins before we even take our first breath. Do you realize that? Our programming begins as we are growing in our mother's bodies. Many of you know that I have a daughter who was adopted from Russia. Unlike many of the other children in that baby home, our daughter did not have fetal alcohol syndrome, for which we're very grateful. But that's just one very obvious way that what the mother does affected that child. So our programming begins before we even take a breath, and it continues. You have your own programming from your birth family, from your family of origin. I am a native New Orleanian. I got some things in my system based on the culture in which I lived that are deeply rooted. Do not play a marching band tune in front of me. I cannot help it. But I lived there for 23 years, was not allowed to go away to college. I went to high school 4 blocks away, grammar school 4 blocks away, high school 3 blocks away, college 2 blocks away. I graduated from college in May, got married in September, and moved to Idaho in December. This is the first time in my life I had not lived in a community of Catholics, in a Catholic family, in a Catholic part of the city, and in a Catholic city, in a Catholic part of a state. I learned these things called Protestants. Okay? So you can imagine what kind of programming I had as a Catholic. And none of this is good or bad, it just is, right? So we have this programming. And programming follows us into our most intimate relationships. No, Unity Eastside people, I'm not going to talk about folding the towels. I will talk about the rules we make up as families. You have rules in your family, do you not? Come on. You have rules in your family. One of the rules I tried to instigate when I moved here was there was a little bench outside the door in the garage where you were supposed to take off your shoes. Nobody did it but me. So I got rid of all the carpeting because I hated dirty carpet. So we have these rules, right? They're ingrained in us. And we have them because there's a good reason for them, right? I didn't want a dirty house. So we have those rules. Not everybody follows them. What happens when we make rules and people don't follow them? Well, if you fold a towel at my house and you do it wrong, used to be a good trigger for me. We get triggered. This is not going the way it should be. Because as human beings, we live in this dualistic world. We actually think there are only two choices. And why do we think that? Well, because first of all, it's part of the function of our human brain to organize things so that we can understand them better. Now, we know that a day is 24 hours long, but it's divided up into two parts. You know what they are, night and day. Thank you. A coin has two sides, right? It wouldn't be a coin if it only had one side. Everything in this universe seems to have a dualistic nature. That's okay, but we have to see beyond that. And what we get stuck in, though, is we get stuck in this dualistic nature. I'm right and you're wrong, right? How many times a day do you get triggered by something that somebody else does because it doesn't really suit you? When we get triggered, it becomes almost a parody of namaste. You know namaste? The divine in me greets the divine in you. Well, when we're triggered, what we're doing is we're saying the hidden, repressed fear inside of me is now going to beat up the hidden, repressed fear in you, right? And that works really well, doesn't it? Let me tell you, teachers are all around us. Teachers are all around us. I have a tiny poodle. She wasn't supposed to be mine. She was supposed to be my daughter's. Long story. I don't know if she's a miniature or a toy. I don't know what the weight categories are. She's 10 pounds, and she's a holy terror. And that's because I didn't think you needed to train a dog that small. So Butters will attack you if you go anywhere near her food. And this is crazy. This is just crazy because nobody else wants that food. But Butters doesn't seem to get that. Butters does not seem to get that. So Butters goes into survival mode. And you know what that's like. Feel that for just a moment, that survival mode, right? When your whole system is now on guard, you're poised, you're ready to fight. That dog is going to take off a toe sooner or later. Except that now I finally learned that I need to train her. So I've started, and it's going to be a long process, but she's learning. She's learning. I put the bowl down, she has to sit, and she has to wait until I give her the command that she's free. The next step is to be able to pick the bowl up while she's eating. Okay. So I'm desensitizing her to these things. We need to be desensitized to those things that trigger us, right? If I yell at Butters and I use the bigness that I am compared to her bigness and I try to scare her into submission, what happens? She just gets bigger and more aggressive, right? The same thing happens to us when we feel something arising in us that we don't like, or we say to ourselves, as unity people, I shouldn't be feeling that, much less thinking it and saying it. But the thing to do is just accept it, right? And the thing to do with Butters is to make her feel safe, to let her know that she'll get exactly what she wants if she plays by the rules, right? So our spiritual beliefs, bolstered by our practices, can bring us back to some level of sanity, right? So one of the early spiritual truths I learned in unity was, I am not a human being having a spiritual experience. In fact, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. That flipped my reasoning on its head. I'm a spiritual being. I don't even really belong in this body. This body isn't really what it's all about. And for most of my life, that's what it was, survival, right? And survival means so many different things. But this body is just a vehicle for what? For the spiritual being I already am. Well, if I already am that spiritual being, how come I'm not behaving like it? I ask myself that often. So why? Why do I have to? Why have I forgotten? Why have I forgotten? And it's not just me. Everybody has. Walt Whitman, in his poem, Song of Myself, he writes, if I get this right. So I contradict myself. And very well, I absolutely contradict myself. I am large. I am multitudes. You are large. You are multitudes. You're not just one single entity inside there, are you? You probably grew up learning some manners, and you behaved in a certain way when you were out in public, and then you behaved a different way at home. In my family, we call that being a street angel and a house devil. Thank you very much. I resemble that remark. So we learn these, so we know that there are many multiple personalities within us, right? And the parts that we don't like, in psychology, it's said that they then form the shadow of ourselves. What we repress forms the shadow. And you know what that shadow does for us? You know how it tells us that it exists? We project it onto other people. Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. We project it onto other people, right? So that's what I'm dealing with my house, at my house and Butters. I have a 24-year-old autistic daughter who does not realize she's afraid of the dog and that her fear makes her react like a giant being. And she projects that aggression onto the dog. And they don't get along. And I keep trying to say to her, you have the bigger brain. You're the only one that can change this situation. And I realize that when a person isn't ready to hear that, no amount of saying that's going to make a difference. They have to experience it for themselves. They have to experience that the power is always right here with me. I am not powerless. I am a powerful, peaceful presence making a difference in the world. But I have to remember that. And I have to remember that not by repressing all the parts of me that I have disowned, but by allowing them to be. Now, I don't want to allow them to act out, but I have to allow them to be. I allow Butters to be afraid that her food is going to disappear. I speak to her very calmly, very soothingly. I have her come to me and I pet her. I do everything I can to let her know that she's safe, secure, surrounded by love, which I also do to myself. I learned that a long time ago, and I've used this over and over again. I am safe, secure, and surrounded by love, no matter what is going on in the moment. No matter what. Even if it looks like from the outside that someone is attacking me, I can remember that. I am safe, secure, and surrounded by love. So, back to the golden rule. When we feel ourselves triggered, we have a choice. We can choose to refrain from acting on that trigger. We don't ignore it, and we don't drive it deeper into our subconscious. We just let it be. And as I heard at our Tuesday morning book study recently, something Reverend Bill said, we let that feeling come, we let it be, and then we let it go. I don't have to dissect it. I don't have to diagram it. I don't have to even understand it. It's just an emotion. Most emotions last 90 seconds if we don't keep feeding them. 90 seconds. Switch your attention away from that emotion and put it back on the things that are true. So the question I have, and I ask myself this every time I want to be right, I want things to be done my way. Am I willing to give up who I think I am or how I want things to be? Am I willing to give that up for who I truly am? Am I willing to step into the fullness of my Christ consciousness, as we say in unity? Am I willing to fully embody that awareness? Am I willing? And it's really who I really am. It's who you really are. I'm a human being whose name is Jean. But I am the Christ in expression, and so are you. And that's meant to encourage you, not to let you beat yourself up and go, well, I failed there. That's really easy to do. There's enough people who will do that for you. So you just stay. First, you have to notice. First, you have to notice that you have gone down that rabbit hole. You have to notice that. And you have to feel what you feel there, because probably you're going to feel, well, I was about to say a bad word. Dang. I did it again, right? Dang, I did it again. Okay, let that come. Feel it for 90 seconds. Let it be, and then just let it go. and choose a different response. Choose a different response. And as we do that, we go back to that golden rule. Treat people as you would have them treat you, right? First, you have to do that for yourself. First, you have to do that for yourself. Treat yourself with kindness, respect, and empathy. Recognize the uniqueness of you. Recognize the value that you have as a human being. Every human being has value. It doesn't matter where they were born, what language they speak, what their IQ is, how much money they have, whether they have all their limbs in all the right places. It doesn't matter. We have inherent value. Be kind to yourself. And from there, you can look at the people and the events that are tempting you to be off-center, that are tempting you to behave in a way that is not worthy of who you really are. And it's so easy. This world makes it so easy now. Everywhere you look, somebody is telling you to choose us or them. Us or them. And they're pumping themselves up with all kinds of righteousness. I'm totally for peace. Do you understand that? Okay. It's easy. It's easy to follow the way of the world. It's hard to live the golden rule. So start with yourself. Start with yourself. And then once you do, you find it so much easier to have empathy, to understand that you are able to see who the other really is. Who the other really is. You might remember that book, The Little Soul and the Sun. And the little soul was getting ready to come to earth, and he was being trained on what to do. And he met this other little soul who said, when you see me on earth, you won't recognize me because I'll be wearing clothes that hide my light. And I'm going to be in your life to teach you forgiveness. And that little soul said to the little soul he was training, he said, I'm going to need you to see underneath this cloak that I'm wearing. When I have forgotten who I am, I'm going to need you to know who I really am. That's what we're being called to do, people. We are not being called to condemn other people. We are not being called to tell them they are wrong and we are right. We are being called to continually see who they really are. They may never see it in this lifetime, but that lesson isn't about them. It's about me. It's about you. We're on the spiritual path. We're the ones who have chosen this way of life. Every problem becomes an opportunity to grow more and more aware of who I really am. And how many times a day do you have that? And when you can begin to celebrate every single time that happens, you'll know you have really grown. Instead of groaning about, right? Instead of, you go, yay, another opportunity to step more fully into who I really am. And you may never get any recognition for that. You may not win a Nobel Peace Prize. Your family may not ever say, wow, you're just an angel. Actually, my husband just said that to me. We took a 5-day trip to Mississippi and Louisiana. And he said to me, you were just amazing. You were so kind. And I didn't kill him. So I knew I had grown. I was just like, yep, I can do that when I'm not trying to control everything around me, you know? I can do that. And doesn't that feel good? And isn't that what we all really want? Okay, so we're going to practice that with a 3-part meditation that is designed to help you out in the world whenever you need to. It's very simple. It comes from Robert Assagioli's, he's a psychology, it's called the Disidentification Meditation. And it is designed to help us really get in touch with who we really are. So I invite you to prepare for meditation. You might want to stretch or breathe. Yeah, I love that make noise when you breathe. That's something I learned from the Protestants. I wasn't allowed to make noise in the Catholic Church. And we're going to close our eyes. And we're going to notice our bodies. Just notice. Begin at the top of the head and not dwelling on any particular part. Just imagine that you're doing a quick scan of your body. How is it feeling? How's the hair on my head? All the way down through the body. Am I uncomfortable in any way? I'm allowed to move. Notice especially any tightness, any tension, any discomfort, and notice it without judging it. Oh, that's what is. That's what is. As we finish the body scan, I invite you to take a deep breath in and then to release it, acknowledging this is my body, but I am not my body. This is the body I have, but I am not my body. And then we're going to move to the emotional body. What's the state of your emotional body today? Acknowledge all the emotions, the joy, the sadness, the confusion, whatever you're feeling, just acknowledge that. Emotions are the technicolor of our lives. I have emotions, but I am not my emotions. I'm noticing any emotions that I may want to revisit later today. If there are emotions that are too big to contain in this moment, I invite you to save them for later. Maybe journal about those emotions. Remembering always, I have emotions. I am not my emotions. So if you feel an emotion in your body, I invite you to breathe into that area of the body, acknowledge that emotion, and then breathe out, letting it go. Letting it go. And the next area that we're going to scan is our mind. Our mind. In this Western culture of ours, we are so identified with the mind. So identified. We think we are our mind, but we are not our mind. We have a mind and we have thoughts, but we are so much greater than those thoughts. Try to just notice your thoughts as if they are a ticker tape or a reader board. Those thoughts are just flowing past, maybe a leaf on a river. Those thoughts just pass through you. Noticing. I have thoughts, I am not my thoughts. I am a being of pure spirit, pure awareness, pure energy. I have no beginning and I have no end. I am that. I am. Silently, I invite you to affirm to yourselves, I am a center of pure self-awareness and infinite love. Breathe that in. I am a center of pure awareness and infinite love. And I am learning. So without losing touch with who you really are, begin to bring your awareness back. As we learn to treat ourselves with kindness, respect, and empathy, recognizing our inherent value and uniqueness, each of us realizes that we are a spiritual being having a human experience. This is the truth in which I live and move and have my being. And so it is.
Light of God surrounds us.